What's up everyone? Welcome to the combo chapter of my Kunimitsu guide. The goal here is to teach you how combos work, not just list them in front of you so you can learn them. There are tons of videos that do that. I looked at them, I tested stuff out. The nature of combos is being able to get the most damage out of your opportunity. And a lot of that depends on several other situations, if there's a wall coming by or if you don't want to trigger their rage or something like that. So the ability to adjust your combos as necessary is very important. And I think that will come naturally when you understand the combo parts better. Rather than memorizing 34 specific combos for 34 specific situations, I think it works a lot better if you just know, I could do this and then switch it up to that when the time is right. So that's the goal here, is to teach you how combos work, show you the moves and tools that Kunimitsu has for her combos, so you can determine what you're most comfortable with and what your options would be when it comes down to it. So the first thing to cover is how you get combos. Let's take a look at Kunimitsu's launchers. On normal hit, she's got several. Some are pretty good, some are a little bit out there. She has a down forward 2. A pretty generic down forward 2, other than it has excellent range. This is a really good launcher. 15 frames like usual. Up forward 3, kind of a hop kick knee. Also 15 frames, pretty straightforward. But she also has up forward 3-4. You can do both hits and still get your combo, which seems kind of weird. In other situations like Julia, where she does a hop kick with a follow-up extension, if you did that follow-up to keep yourself safe or whatever, keep you getting punished so hard, you lose your combo. I guess that's what this is for, right? If they want to try to jab you, and then you did the second hit, I don't know. It's kind of weird, but she's always had that. Either way, up forward 3, and up forward 3 plus 4. Boom, boom. Natural launchers. She has a while standing 3, also 15 frame launcher, so pretty straightforward kit right away. She could launch you in all the basic situations you're going to encounter. Then she has several others with a little bit of flair behind them. Up back 3 plus 4 does a nice chunk of damage. That's this whole big backflip with a nice high launcher, so you can get a little bit of extra combo in there if the timing is just right. Next up we have straight up 3 plus 4. No angles, straight up 3 plus 4. Teleports and drops down with this kick. These kicks are natural launcher on hit, plus on block. So this is a really good move overall. As long as you don't get stuffed on your way into the air. I don't think you're ever invincible during this period. You can get dick jabbed out of the bottom of it. It's hard to say. But once she's up in the air, it's pretty tough to avoid. She should beat lows with this for the most part, but it's hard to say. You can get stuffed if she hasn't quite finished her animation. But otherwise, up 3 plus 4 is a really good move all around. Natural hit launcher. Up forward 4, this little spinning kick, is a launcher, but only under the situation where Kunimitsu is to the left. You can see right away how different that hit was. She kind of hits you to the side a little bit, but under a certain angle, she goes flying even further away. If you're just right and you're on your left a little bit, they land close, you can get a combo from that. So up forward 4 on normal hit can combo, but it depends on your distance and angle, and the combos they're in are difficult because of those angles and the character flipping around and stuff. But it is there. If you're, just playing the game and you're a little bit off to the side, that's a pretty quick little launcher you can go for. It's a nice move overall. It's not plus on block or anything like that, but it's just good. Beats lows, does convert to a combo. Katon stance has 3-2. This is a nice little launcher. It's super risky. It's launch punishable itself, but it goes with a mix-up game, like kind of everything else that she does. There's a low to set it up, and if you know you got him ducking, this is a pretty big-time 25 damage launcher to go for. It just looks cool. It's one of those things that's worth doing because it's cool ninja stuff. Katon 3-2, natural hit is a launcher. From her back turn position, she only has one natural launcher, and that is forward 1 plus 2. Causes that little crumple stun. All the other stuff she can do, they're all counter hits and they're all dependent on other things. As far as a straight up launcher, back turn forward 1 plus 2 is the only one she has out of the back turn stance. And the final normal hit launcher is her crouch dash 2. Forward neutral down, down forward plus 2. Does that. Let me show you this in the move list, just to be clear of what we're talking about here. She doesn't have a Mishima type crouch dash, even though that's what this input is. It's this move right here. forward, neutral, down, down, forward, +2. This is the Mishima crouch dash input. And you can do it exactly the same way, and it comes out in 14 frames when you time it exactly, just like Armor King. There's no extra properties like Electrics have, but you can do this in 14 frames if you do the input quickly enough, which is a pretty powerful overall tool. Do note that the moves right underneath it, these are quarter circle moves. If you're familiar with Street Fighter or other 2D fighters at all, this is a Dragon Punch, and these 3 are fireballs. And you will oftentimes get this by accident when you're going for this by just screwing up the inputs. You sometimes get quarter circle too, which is this hatchet chop, when you're going for this instead. So you got to kind of practice. You do have to learn to distinguish the two and not get the wrong one accidentally, depending on the situation. If you had a situation where you needed this one and you accidentally got this, that would be okay. This move is even a little bit faster. It's still fine. Nonetheless, she has a crouch dash too, despite not having a crouch dash, and it is a natural launcher. So let's take a look at all of Kuni's counter hit launchers. There's a pretty good selection here. A lot of this character is based on forcing the opponent to make bad decisions at the worst times, and counter hit launchers are a really good way to capitalize on that. The first one that's worth talking about is forward, forward 2. This one launches them flipped up sideways in the air on counter hit, but certain combos will correct that pretty easily. Not a big deal there. This move jumps over lows and is only -10 on blocks, so this one is absolutely worth noting as one of her better counter hit launchers. Forward, forward 2, really good. Forward 3+4 is another good one. This is a high homing attack. It does cause an automatic screw attack, but this is also a really good move. Between these two, when you're playing out in the mid-range and you got an opponent coming at you, both of these moves are excellent for stopping them in their tracks, landing your counter hits. So forward 3+4 and automatic screw attack is another very good one. Up forward 2 on counter hit. She jumps up in the air and hits them low. Kind of a gimmicky thing. You really need to catch an opponent napping for this to work and not get blocked, let alone counter hit. Unless they happen to just pick the worst possible thing and you get the counter hit here, it's going to be pretty tough. This one recovers crouching, so you do need to adjust the combo a little bit, but it's there. If you ever happen to land such a crazy thing, it's there, as well as Musasabi too. The only difference is this one recovers standing. This empty flip, and then the 2 button is the same thing, a counter hit launching low. This one recovers standing, so you don't need to change your combo, but again, pretty gimmicky. You're going to not find too many situations to land these, but they do exist. Forward, forward, 3+4, 2 is the shark attack. That is another good one for when you're out here in the mid-range and you want to get in and they happen to just be ready to attack and you land on them with this. Pretty cool. Because you can do this move and have time enough to see that they did something and then just press 2 when you know you've got your counter hit and get your automatic screw attack that way. That's a grip of damage. 49 already, and being able to kind of read that, throwing this move out, because this move is good enough on its own. You can go into back turned, or you can flip over them and stuff like that. You can kind of just use this to dance around a little bit at mid-range, but if you catch that counter hit, pretty easy to confirm that and get a screw attack. What else we got? Setsunagake. She has a mid and a low out of the set stance. Set 2, that's a counter hit launcher. The little cinematic results in a screw attack all on its own. Kind of tough to time until you get used to it, but it's a combo starter. And set 3 is a low counter hit launcher. Again, this one also recovers crouch, so you do kind of have to adjust combo a little bit. But think about that again from this mid-range. This command dash has a mid and a low counter hit launcher built into them. Those can both be really powerful. When you get away from an opponent, they're going to be scared to death to come at you because of your ability to just shut down their attack or come flying back at them with another counter hit ready to go. So she's really dangerous in the transition game, and these moves are why. The last major counter hit talking about is back turned down 2. Turns out this move has a very situational combo. At first it looks like you might just get like a quick little follow-up for free, but she turns around standing up in her normal position, and as it happens, down back 2 has just the angle to pick up. So counter hit, down back 2 is a launcher, as long as you're not too far away. But that's also true for a lot of launchers. You got to be in range. The last set worth mentioning in counter hits are the end of a string. In the main Kunimitsu guide, I talk a lot about throwing out strings and getting your opponent to challenge them at the wrong time and getting blasted like that. There's a lot to be said for just poking, and then letting it rip when you know they're going to counter poke you and get counter hit for it. So there's a series of these that also come with launchers. One of them is 2-2-2-2-2. The 5th hit is a counter hit launcher, and honestly, I don't know how you're supposed to work that into your game. I really don't. 2-2 can cancel into the Katon stance. 2-2-2 can cancel into set, but all 5 of them, all 5 in a row. You can also cancel that last one into back turned and do nothing, but if the 5th one hits as a counter hit, you get a launcher. So you're on your own to figure out how to land that one. 3-4 is another one. It's a little more practical. That 2nd hit is a counter hit, crumple stun. You're just going to be using this 3 as a homing move in neutral for the most part. And again, it's going to be kind of hard to land this one because they know the only extension you have is a high. It's different than it was in the last game. She used to have a low spin kick and a mid spin kick after this. Now it's not. Now this is always a high. There is no other option there. So I feel like they're never going to just press buttons against this. They're going to wait that extra second because they know that's a high. If you ever do that high, they're going to be ready to duck it. I don't see them pressing buttons. So I guess you could kind of use that to your advantage when you know this is going to make them duck in anticipation of a second hit that may or may not exist. You can start using that. You can start running up and poking the mid and see what happens. If they continue to duck after this, then you know you've got an opponent that's conditioned and you can continue to abuse. If they, again, start to challenge you again, that's when you know you let this thing fly, whatever it might be. That's the name of the game in general, is keeping your opponent conditioned for what you're doing so you do something else and they're not prepared. That's kind of a tough one to land, though, the 2nd hit of 3-4. Down forward 1-3, I think is a little bit better. This move was pretty improved from the last game. This wasn't even a combo on counter hit. On counter hit, this wasn't even there in the last game. Kind of silly. But the 2nd hit by itself is a counter hit launcher. You can do lots of cool stuff because it's a high airborne juggle. So this one is kind of practical. You're doing the dance and moving around and sidestepping, hitting them low, whatever it is, and then poke. If you got an opponent that's really aggressive, you let it rip with that hit and they're going to wish they didn't press that button there. That's a lot of things. So that's a pretty good one. The only problem with this is it's a high, again. So they kind of want to stand their ground and be ready to duck this. Well, in this game, they added a mid to check it. So that actually does kind of make this move significantly better than it was before. This becomes viable now because there's a mid to back it up and because you can actually get some damage if you get counter hits everywhere. But anyway, a couple others are automatic screw attacks while standing 2-4. That 2nd hit by itself will cause a screw attack. The first 2 hits are natural. But if you get that 2nd one alone, damn, look at that range. The 2nd one alone, automatic screw attack. And the same is true for Katon 4-2. On counter hit, the string will connect, like so, which is not normally a combo. But the 2nd hit alone, counter hit launcher. So that's a pretty good arsenal of moves to have. Really good overall normal hit launchers. 15 frames, standing, crouching, and all of that. Some that are plus on block, some that are evasive. And she has a 14 frame launcher if she can do it correctly. Counter hit stuff is really, really good at keeping your opponent out. And also good at getting back in. And if they happen to challenge at the wrong moment, you get a free combo out of that too. So being so dangerous on an opponent's approach and your own approach is kind of cool. It's an interesting trait to think about for this character. And then again, she has an army of things she can get when the opponent presses buttons at the wrong time. When she's zipping and dashing around and changing stances and going back turn and transitions, opponents want to try to blow that up. They want to jab you or hop kick you or whatever. All these extensions are really good at just shutting that stuff down. And a lot of these that we talked about get you launchers as well when you get them just right. Now that you have your opponent in the air, let's take a look at the combo tools and options the Kunimitsu has. And as I stated earlier, the main goal here being to learn why they do what they do, not just memorize sequences. The key to combos is being able to switch them up, change them, do whatever you need to do based on the situation to get the most damage rather than just following a formula. So I want to teach you the parts, when to use the parts and why to use those parts, so you kind of gain that instinct on your own, and then eventually you'll realize you can just kind of mix and match on the fly in an actual match without even thinking about it. So first up, the major combo tools this character has. The first thing you're going to learn that you're going to use repeatedly is forward 4. This forward 4 knee lift. If you continue to hold forward, she goes into Setsunagake. and then just press 1. So forward 4, set 1. The second most common tool is pretty much the same thing, but you're from back turned, and you do the 1-3 string, and hold forward into set, and do set 1. I'm going to refer to these as the forward 4 loop, and the back turn loop, just for simplicity's sake, because we're going to use these a lot. They're not really loops necessarily, but it's going to feel like she's going to do these teleport slashy things over and over and over again, and it kind of looks like old school dust loops to me sometimes. So it's kind of helps to just refer to them as little segments, the forward 4 loop and the back turn loop. You're going to use repeatedly and in varying situations. So a keen observer would notice that going back turn in the middle of a combo isn't always the easiest thing. You're not going to have time for that. So we have tools to do just that. And they are back turn 4, which automatically turns you around, and set 4. Both of them leave you in the back turn state automatically, ready to continue your combo from there. So you'll notice you'll need to do that before you ever do a back turned loop. So the screw attacks you're going to use in a combo pretty much boil down to just one. Since you're doing these loops, right, you're doing set 1 all the time, to screw attack, you're basically going to change one of those loops into set 1-2-1. That's your screw attack. 90% of your combos are going to use that for your screw attack. Take either whatever loop you happen to be in and do 1-2-1 for your screw attack. The other 10% of your combos are going to do the exact same thing, except change it to set 2. Set 2 is a screw attack by itself, and this is fewer hits, so after the screw attack you could potentially get more hits in at that point. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. 90% of the time, set 1-2-1 coming right out of one of your loops, or set 2 coming out of one of your loops. In an emergency, you have back 2. If you kind of forgot where you were and you just needed to hit screw attack real quick, you have back 2 or forward 2-3. Those are both pretty quick, will get the job done. Especially in a situation like you have a long combo that balcony breaks and you land at the bottom and you know you don't have many hits left. You can just go back 2 if you still have your screw attack. Something like that. Otherwise, set 1-2-1 and set 2. That's all you're ever going to need for your screw attacks and combos. So let's talk about the actual structure of these combos and how you put them all together. The back turn loop pretty much has to be earlier in your combo. You can't do it later because of the necessity of turning around. 6 or 7 hits into the combo, you're not going to be able to turn around and then do this anymore. It's not going to have the range to do so. Back turn loops pretty much have to be in the first part of the combo. Everything else can go afterward. So that's what you kind of focus on for the most part. And you can turn that first loop into a screw attack with 1-2-1 or one of the later loops. So the general format is going to basically be 1 hit or 2 hits into a back turn loop. That's your goal right away. Unless you can get like in one of the exceptional unique combos, the basic B&B type combos, you're going to do 1 hit into your back turn loop. Just like that. Show you in the end. Back 4, back turn loop. And then at that point, you can do a forward 4 loop right afterward, like this. And that when you turn into your screw attack. So that combo is just 1 hit to turn around, a back turn loop, and then a forward 4 loop, and I turned that one into the screw attack with 1-2-1. And then from there, you're kind of running out of hits. And you can see that situation. Look how far away I am. We'll do the exact same combo. Look where I land after the screw attack. We're 30 feet apart from each other. At this point in the combo, I have no other choice but to use that kunai throw to end it. I can't reach there. So that's one of the drawbacks of getting the extra loops in early, is you kind of get way, way too far away. One of the things you can do, as we talked about, is switch it up to the other screw attack. That. Switch it into set 2, and you can see we're about 10 feet closer this time. So what that does is afford you a couple extra hits at the end, let you do a slightly different combo ender than just having to settle for the kunai throw, because it's the only thing that reaches. So that's the basic structure. 1 hit, back turn loop, forward 4 loop. You can change it the other way. You can do the screw attack early and do the forward 4 loop afterwards if you want. And in fact, this is what you're going to have to do if you switch it up into 2 hits. If you do 2 hits to turn around like this, your forward 4 loop is not going to connect anymore. All I'm doing here is doing 2 hits to reach my back turn state, then the back turn loop, and you'll see it's already too late. I have too many hits. See, that drops at that point. So when you got 2 hits before your back turn loop, you pretty much have to go screw attack right there. 1, 2, 1. At that point, there's your screw attack. And again, you're 20 feet away, but you do have some hits left over. So that's really the key, is determining where you want to put your screw attack. If you have fewer hits, you can put a forward 4 loop before the screw attack. But if you have a couple of extra hits in there, that pretty much has to go after the screw attack. And personally, I would recommend that one. And the main reason why is if you can do a forward 4 loop post screw attack, that gives you the most options to change up what you're doing. For example, I'll show you this. I'm going to do the screw attack early, the 1, 2, 1. And then I'll run up and do a forward 4 loop, but switch the ender into those kicks. That's the main advantage there, is you can do your forward 4 loop afterward and decide if you want to do something different for wall carry, or if you want to like spike them to the ground or go for Oki, whatever it might be. So that's the structure. 1 or 2 hits with the goal being to turn you around. You do the back turn loop into set 1, and then you decide, do I want to do my screw attack right there? If so, you just turn that loop into 1, 2, 1. And if you don't, you can do a forward 4 loop and turn that into your screw attack with 1, 2, 1. So that's most of them. We'll go through some specific situations where different launchers give you different results, but that's pretty much the goal you're going for each time. You want a back turn loop in the beginning, and as many forward 4 loops as you can squeeze in there before they drop out of it. So let's take a look at combo enders. And the interesting thing about Kunimitsu is her maximum damage combos are going to switch sides. You'll notice this kunai toss, every time it gets hit, she ends up on the other side. So it is the most damage, but if you're getting close to the wall, you're going to completely forfeit your wall position. So you do have to be aware of that. But to get started, the simplest combo ender that she has is down 3, 4, 1. Down 3, 4, 1, all 3 hits connect. Does a nice chunk of damage, but it does switch sides. The only problem with that is that down 3 is a little stubby. You can only get so many hits in before you run out of distance to run up and catch them. Your other alternative there is to just do another forward 4 loop into the kunai toss right away. That's going to get you pretty much the same damage after the same number of hits and does switch sides. And again, I recommend that because getting another forward 4 lets you switch up the ender if you want to. And if you do need to switch it up, you could do something like this. Have the screw attack, then switch to those kicks, which is only 3 less damage, does not switch sides, and also has good wall carry. So those are your primary combo enders. The forward 4 loop into kunai toss is the most damage, but it costs you the side. Forward 4 into the set 4-3 kicks is almost as good without switching sides. One of your other options to end combos is the 2-2-2 string. Not something you use every day, but the fact that the 3rd hit can cancel into set means it's got combo potential in it. So you could do the exact same thing you normally do as a forward 4 loop. You just do 3 hits of set, hold forward and go into set 1, and you can throw the kunai like you would do for any other combo ender, right? Well, you might notice that's going to be 5 some hits, and you're never going to get that, which is true. So the key to doing this is to make sure the first hit misses like that. You want to be at a distance where the first hit whiffs, but the second 2 connect on the opponent. That preserves enough float distance so that it hits correctly. So you do have to have a slightly fewer number of hits in your combo. So if you happen to switch up to, say, the set 2 screw attack, this is a situation where you could do that. It can be a little tougher on smaller characters, as everything, as the number of hits extends. But when you get it just right... Wow. So the trick is really to master the distance you are post screw attack. If you're too close, you don't want that first hit to connect, it won't work. But if you're too far away, you do have to dash, but you can't dash too far. So as you can see, it's a little bit tricky. She kind of hits at the very edge of the elbow. And again, too many hits, this isn't going to work. This is only applicable if you have a couple extra hits left post-screw attack. It can lead to more damage, but in my opinion, sticking to just 4-1 loops is much easier to control and still gives you flexibility. But this does exist if you want to learn how to do it. The other things you would want to look at would be breaking the floor. That's your next goal. If you can't reach the wall, would be to break the floor where possible. And both of these options, the best ones you have, are also coming out of set. Since you're in set all the time, your screw attacks can come out of set, so do your floor breaks. The main way to accomplish that would just be a forward 4 loop into up forward 4. That Izuna drop will break the floor. This previously was just her set 4 attack. Now it's set up forward 4. And you can do this all on its own without it having to be a hit throw either. They changed it up a little bit. So once you've done your main combo or whatever, you can still do that. Screw attack. A forward 4 loop into up forward 4 instead breaks the floor. And you can also do the same thing with set 1, 2, 3 if you have the hits left over. 1, 2, 3. Used to be her old bound move in combos, now it's just a floor break. So you can do both of those. And again, what you've noticed is everything is coming out of set. Everything relies on set and then going back into it as many times as you possibly can. So that's the basics of combo structure. Is being able to utilize turning around backwards, doing your back turn to stretch it out, and then the rest of your loops to get as much as you can, and then being able to switch up at the end. So let's put all of that information together, and I'll show you what the main combos are going to look like for all the different launchers that you have. Not every launcher works exactly the same. Some of them have a slightly different angle to it. Some have recovery that's different because of animation, etc., etc. And again, you'll learn how to adjust the combos on the fly by the end of this, hopefully. So it won't matter if you get, a little bit of a stray sideways hit. You'll know to just switch up to this or that as needed. So as far as the main bread and butter combos go, most of your launchers can work off of the same set. Launchers like down forward 2 or while standing 3, etc. These will all work off these combos. I'm not going to list every single one of them. They'll be in the description and the Google Doc link therein. There's like 11 or 12 different launchers, normal and counter hit, where you can all use this same set of combos. But then there's a couple of them where you could use a little extra more, and all that will be indicated. So I'm just going to stick with down forward 2 for the most part to illustrate these. And the general goal is to just show you what your different options are, forward 4 loop before or after, and how that changes things. So the first combo you see, she does into the back turn loop, the forward loop first into screw attack, and then ends with kunai. That's pretty much your only option because she did one hit. She could do the forward 4 loop early in the combo, but that uses up all your hits and you have to end in the kunai. This combo is the opposite. She does the screw attack off back turn loop, and then she can do forward 4 loop after the screw and still ends it with the kunai that way. So again, the damage is the same, the output is the same thing. I think this is the more flexible version if you do the screw attack early, so your forward 4 loop post screw attack can be changed as needed. This combo changes your screw attack into the set 2, which saves you an extra little hit. And in this case, the ender she uses is down 3, 4, 1. It's easier to run up and do that when you have fewer hits, but it's just showing you the flexibility. Set 2 saves a couple hits and does give you a little bit more potential if you want to do a bigger ender than you were previously counting on. This combo squeezes 2 hits in first. Note she does forward 4 into set 4, then the back turn loop, and forward 4 after screw attack. That seems normal, but this actually turns out to be pretty hard because of that one extra hit. 2 hits, back turn loop, and screw attack. You really need to haul ass to get up there to hit them with the forward 4 loop in time for it to not drop. And then the ender is whatever you need it to be. Now, as I mentioned, there are a couple of combos that can only use this one, while the rest of them can't. The ones that we just described can be used by all 11 or 12, whatever I said, basic launchers. The ones that are indicated can do a little bit more just because their recovery is different and they have a different first 2 hits. Not all launchers can do this, and we'll see in the next section some other launchers can even get more than this. But I feel like this is still kind of a B&B combo because this is what you're going to be using the most time off of your down forward 2, probably one of your more common launchers. So what's different here, the first 2 hits are up forward 3, 4. And then she just does 2 forward 4 loops into the screw attack and ends it. This combo you can see she does the screw attack sooner and does the forward 4 loop after, just like any other combo works. The total number of hits is comparable, so you have the flexibility to do either one in this case. The only difference is the first 2 hits are up forward 3, 4, which leads to more damage, but not possible after every single launcher. So as noted, there are a few launchers that have a slightly different trajectory to them, and not only can you do the up forward 3 plus 4 that we talked about, some of these can also give you an even better option in 4-2. The juggle state is super high in the air, 4-2 connects, and goes right into back turn at just the right timing. Not everything can do this, it depends on the angle, and again, these will be listed in the description, specifically which launchers you can do this from. Up forward 3 is probably the one you would see most often, either that or while standing 3, because you're going to use those from your crouching punish. Since the first 2 hits are 4-2 and leaves you back turned, you have pretty much the same combo that results either way. Here's a back turn loop into the screw attack, and the forward 4 loop into your preferred ender afterward. The 4-2 starter is a little bit picky. The angle needs to be just right for this to work, and you got to get used to the quicker timing of it, but the fundamental is the exact same thing. You get the back turn loop, and you can make your decision how to change the combo from that point. This is up forward 3-4 as the launcher itself. You don't have to do just the first hit to get a combo. You can do both hits, and generally that tends to lead to more damage. So if you know you have the punish or whatever, you go for this. The only thing that's different in this combo is we're going right into the back turn loop the exact same way, but you have to do the screw attack right there, because you'd be pretty much out of hits at that point otherwise. Kunimitsu's back turn launcher is the first one we see with forward 2 as your opening hit. This does a nice bit of damage, but it generally only works on crumple stun launchers and not airborne. As you can see, it does the same job of the first 2 hits, which lead you into your loop territory, but again, it's all dependent on angles and launchers. And here she does the second forward 4 loop, and then ends with a single kunai throw. This combo is the opposite, the new forward 2 starter, but she does the screw attack quickly, and then instead of the forward 4 loop, she ends with the simple ender. You would get the same result either way. The only thing to learn here, again, is you can change up the first 2 hits, but the rest of your combo structure remains. Forward 4 loop, before or after screw attack, depending on what you need. So let's move on to launchers that start the screw attack right away. These are often pretty different, but you'll generally learn that you're doing the same combo parts, just in a slightly different order. Some of these have a slightly different animation to them, as you've come to expect by now. So out of the 4 single hit screw attacks, counter hit set 2 is going to be a little bit different. And even though the number of hits they do can be different, it only depends on the airborne hits. So if you look at something like counter hit set 2, if you notice that second hit on the left still says 100% damage, right? That's because she's not airborne. That is still a grounded hit, and it does not count as a juggle hit, and it does not increase your distance and all that stuff. So technically, this is a 1-hit screw attack, just the same as forward 3+4. So you should be able to do all the combos that are the same. However, in this particular case, this animation recovery is a little bit tricky, and you don't get quite the same amount of time to cover the distance as you would. But for the most part, this is a 1-hit screw attack. So the combos that can be resulted from that are universal except for set 2. Set 2 is a little bit different. So the first combo to look at, you do your screw attack, and you do set 4 to go back turned, the old back turn loop, a single forward 4 loop, and in a kunai. Couldn't get any simpler than that. This combo, however, uses your first hit as that forward 2, and then a pair of forward 1 loops into your kunai, just like the other ones. Now the difference being, the first 2 hits are the same as the back turn combo, and you get a pair of forward 4 loops, and you can end with your kunai, or switch to the ender you need. The only problem with set 2 is the animation takes a little bit longer, and I don't seem to be able to get forward 2 to connect. So stick to the first combo with set 4 as your first hit there. So let's talk about launchers that are 2-hit screw attacks, so to speak. The first one being your crouch dash 2. You can see in this case, the first hit lifts them off the ground, and the second hit causes the screw. And if you look at the damage scaling on the left, this says 70%. That's because the first hit is an airborne hit, and it does count against your juggle system. So you can't do the same combos you could just a second ago. One of your hits is already consumed. And what's unfortunate about this character, as I mentioned in the combo tool section, you kind of have to do some of these parts early, and the longer it drags on, the harder it gets to do. The trick of the forward 4 loops is you could stick in a screw attack, which buys you some time. Since the screw attack is more of like a fixed distance, you can always run up and get a little extra hits. Well, in this case, your screw attack is gone. So you're dependent on the juggle counter being able to actually float hits at the end. And you're going to find out if you try to do the normal sequences, the back turn loops into your forward 4 loops, it does not connect the same. You've kind of run out of all of your hits. So I've pretty much narrowed this down to one combo that I like to do. The damage is pretty good, and most combos that start with your screw attack right away tend to have reduced damage because of these weird properties, but this results in 63, and I think it's pretty good overall. So you could experiment with some micro dashes and instant running 4 type stuff, but for the most part, this combo, in my opinion, does pretty well and has almost no chance of getting screwed up. And in fact, if you want to make sure you don't screw up, you can just do your back turn loop into set 1-2-1. That doesn't do quite as much damage, but it's super easy. And that's an option out of pretty much any combo you could do here. If you want to just get the wall splat and you have the right amount of distance there, you can just do 1-2-1, and that covers it for you. But if you want to use the typical kunai ender, there's a slightly different way here. You'll notice she does not do the full back turn loop and follow up from that point. She does the same opening hits. She does the set 4 and a back turn, but she just turns around naturally and does a 1-2 jab and throws the kunai. This just happens to work a little bit better since you can't stretch a whole forward 4 loop in here. There's too many hits. That does the trick. The recovery and the timing of 1-2 is pretty nice. That fills in 63 damage. No complaints from me. Up +4 is one of the first situational combo starters I want to talk about. As I mentioned during the launchers, this can vary on the angle, and eventually you'll get used to how close you have to be for this to work. You'll get a good sense that's too far away, or if she just got kicked the complete wrong direction, it won't work. But when you do realize that you are off axis to the left and your distance is just right, you'll get a combo from it. It just turns out, because of this sideways axis and all of that, the combo gets exceedingly difficult. And for simplicity's sake, the combo I've shown you here is much more reliable. When you do back turn loops, you stand a chance of dashing under smaller opponents because the angles are so different. So I kind of just threw that all out the window. What you're going to see is just a simpler combo and show you that you can still switch up the ender for wall carry or the kunai if you need to. Works still the same way. So all you're doing, since back 4 is the only way to pick this combo up, I can do 1-3, but I don't do the loop. I just do forward 2-3 as a basic screw attack and call it a day. There's no need to stretch that out any further. You can just do that, get your hits, and do your ender. And as you can see, we're doing the wall carry ender, which is nice, reliable, decent damage. This version of the combo is the same thing. You do your back turn to 1-3. Simple screw attack, and then you do your forward 4 loop into kunai, but be warned, that kunai can be a little tricky. If you look closely the whole time, you can see the opponent character keeps wanting to spin around. They want to fall down backwards because of the way that they were hit. So if you time it off a little bit, they will spin right under your kunai toss, and the combo can drop. The next situational launcher look at is counter hit, back turned, down 2. This didn't seem like it was going to be a launcher at all when you first play, but then you realize, when you look on Twitter, that if you turn around and do down back 2, you can pick them up. But it turns out your only options here are while standing 2-4, because that leaves you crouching and you really can't do anything else. But after that point, your forward 4 loop works pretty much the same. So this one has a combo that's unique all its own. Down back 2 while standing 2-4 to screw attack. So the last couple launches I want to look at here in this section are a little different because they recover in the crouch state. If you do set 3 and get your counter hit, and the watches I mash out 4, I get a while standing 4 because I recover crouching. This is also the same of up forward 2. This low on counter hit recovers crouching. Because of that, something's a little bit different. You can crouch cancel and do your back 4 startup just like any other normal combo. I find it a little bit harder to do off of set 3. When I practice doing this, it's not too bad to do it there, to crouch cancel and do it, but you got to be pretty strict in your timing, and I found the timing very strict on set 3. So in my opinion, it wasn't worth practicing any further. You can change your combo and get just slightly different path out of it by just doing a while standing hit. So in the first combo, since you're crouching, you could use while standing 2-4, which gets your screw attack right away. Then she does set, runs up, the typical back turn loop, and throws the kunai. Watch it again closely. As you'll see, it works pretty much the same, but your while standing 2-4 gets you an automatic set, and you're not really changing anything else. It's just a little bit different timing because of that. This next combo uses while standing 1 to start the float, and goes right into forward 4 loops, which does let you turn around backwards, and then you got to go screw attack, because as we've learned at that point, you are out of hits. There's no extra forward 4 loop in this one. Just being able to do while standing 1 and then turn around back turn, you've used your hits, early screw attack, finisher. Just the same as you've learned to adjust any other combo with X amount of hits in it at this point, works the same way. And this last combo is pretty much the same. You do while standing 4, but this also lets you do back 4 to go into your turnaround shenanigans. And this preserves your forward 4 loop after the screw attack. Because you're only doing 2 hits prior to your back turn loop, you still have all those hits left over, and you can run up and finish with the forward 4 loop afterward. Always keep in mind, these forward 4 loops can get a little bit tricky later on in the combo. You'll find that once you've got 7 or 8 hits, you have to learn exactly when she recovers out of the screw attack animation and then instantly run up. In my experience, I learned to do instant running kind of stuff in Tekken Tag 2. Like during Tag Assault, you had a very quick window for your other character, and then when you switch back, so when it came to like ending combos with King, right, I learned to just insta Shining Wizard real quick. And so I kind of think that technique carried over for me in Tekken 7. Whenever I have to run up at a screw attack, I kind of just triple tapped to do instant runnings, and I think that can be benefit here. Rather than trying to time exactly and then just hold forward to run like that, I sort of just let it rock for a second, wait till I'm definitely sure, and then instant run and get like a quicker. It's just the way my muscle memory works. So you do have to learn exactly what your timings are going to be like based on how far you have to run. It can be a little bit tricky, and you have to get used to how quickly you can run up there. The harder it is to run is because of the number of hits, but that's what we want, right? We want as many hits as possible. So there's no shame in reducing the number of hits by just doing, say, the set 2 ender and giving yourself a much easier time to run up and finish the combo that way. As you do notice, forward 4 is its own attack. So if you get too close, you can't just like dash up and do it because you might get that by accident. You have to learn the difference. You have to learn that when you're far away, running up into 4 is no problem. And when you're close, sometimes you want to just walk a little bit and then do forward 4. Most of the combos we've shown you are going to be somewhere right in the middle, right? You should about here, and you have plenty of time to just run up and do it. It should be easy, but some of them are a little difficult in that regard, so you will have to learn how to get the maximum timing out of your runs. So that just about covers all of your basic launchers and situational launchers, the combos you get from them, and how to adjust. So hopefully that was enough of a breakdown you can see what exactly goes into it or what can't go into your combos when it comes down to it. And there are lots of little variations here and there, but those that I've shown you are pretty much all you need to know. You can check out a couple of other options by trying to squeeze in hits, but the more you do, the harder it gets, especially when it comes to small characters. Everything I've shown you was done on Xiaoyu because these will all work on small characters. There's a couple of size hitbox exceptions, and you'll find those right away when you're practicing. Why doesn't this work? That could be why. But there's always like 3 other options you can switch up to when you need to. So last thing to cover here real quickly are mini combos. Moves that don't give you a full launcher and screw attack and wall carry and stuff, but are rather just small, simple follow-ups. They are true combos the opponent cannot escape, but they don't give you the whole shebang. They're just little miniature combos. The first one I talk about is back 1+2. This move is a Sabaki parry. If she gets hit, she does the teleport drop and slices on you, but if she doesn't, she does this little knockdown thing, and you can hit them with quarter circle 2 for free. Like that. She's getting up, but she can't avoid it in time. She can't roll to the side, whatever. Quarter circle forward 2, a 13 frame move that hits grounded. So that just happens to be fast enough to tag them before they move. So back 1+2, if it does hit, normally, quarter circle forward 2 is guaranteed. Back turn 3 is this mid flip kick that always knocks down on normal hit. It's one of the few moves that leaves Kunimitsu back turn when she does it. So when this does hit, you stay back turn, you can do down 2. That is inescapable. Free doesn't register as a combo because technically they're on the ground, but they can't get away from it. So back turn 3 and the back turn down 2. Quick little mini combo. Back 4-3, the second hit on counter hit also has a follow-up. Back 4 is a move you might use in neutral to go turn around. And if you have an opponent that wants to try to jam you up when you do so, they want to press buttons against it. Well, if you hit them with the second hit of that on counter hit, you get a free follow-up. Nothing else seems to be able to reach. I have not been able to find a way to set forward and catch them with any kind of dash or anything. It's too quick. The kunai throw, it's good enough, right? It's free damage. If you happen to catch that counter hit, you get free damage. There are plenty of other 2-hit strings that do give you full combos on counter hit. That one just has a nice little bonus to it. One worth mentioning is the counter hit property of Katon 1. I'm going to turn on the frame data so you can see exactly what's happening here. And you'll notice that on counter hit, this move is plus 12. Pure hit stun. It's not a nosebleed. It's nothing they can tech. It's pure stun. You can hit them for free. So you have two options here. One of them is 4-2, which is 46 damage and leaves you back turned with huge frame advantage. So that's really good right away. You catch that counter hit, 4-2 is guaranteed. You can turn around and get your back turn mix up for free and keep going on them. You do have one other option, which is forward 4-2. This move can be done in 10 frames and has a big knockdown, does damage, wall splats, and all that. So if you happen to be in the right situation, you can go for this if you think you can nail it. That's just a giant amount of damage. It's actually not that much more than the basic one. It's only like 4 points more, but in general, 50 damage is a lot. And this one will wall splat, letting you get guaranteed damage, whereas the other one is just a mix-up. Depends on what you need, and if whether or not you think you can hit that move in 12 frames. 12 frames isn't too bad. Getting it in 10 is a little bit tricky, but for this particular situation, you can hit it in 12 frames fairly reliably. The rest of the mini combos I'm going to show you, I'm not going to go through all of them because they all work the same way. The list will be in the description and in the Google Doc. They're basically knockdowns into forward 2. The one you're going to see probably the most is the counter hit on down 1. You can see they're on the ground, head down. They can get up and roll, but they can't do so quickly enough to avoid your follow-up. Counter hit down 1 into forward 2, guaranteed. And the next most common one you're going to see is your full crouch down forward 3. That one can be a little bit tougher because you're still in crouch state. You have to wait for just like a second for her to finish and fully recover and go into the crouch state. Because from the crouch state, forward 2 will cancel and it works. But if you do it too quickly, you get a different input. You have to have it just a little bit delayed, because otherwise you get while standing too, like that. So once you just get a second to enter the full crouch state, then you've tapped forward 2 and you got it. So there's tons of moves that have these as well. So make sure you learn those, because that's free damage in a lot of little situations. Every little spike results in one of these. That's really good damage to pile up. You don't have to get the combo every time. Any little mistake they make can get capitalized on pretty quickly for 30, 40, even 50 damage in some cases. Absolutely worth learning those and having those in your pocket ready to go. So the last segment to talk about concerning combos is the wall. Whole different ball game takes place at the wall, and for starters, I want to just go over the moves you can end a full combo with to get you to the wall. All the combos we looked at are out in the open where you can get the whole thing, and we talked about the need to adjust your combos to get to the wall correctly. So let's take a look at what happens at the very end when you get the whole combo and then your screw attack, and you still have a little bit left to go. When it comes to wall carrying, because you're in Setsunogake all the time, those options are pretty good. And set 1-2 is actually pretty decent. By the time you're at the end of a combo, and you know you're at a pretty medium distance, you're not too far, but you're not super close, just a good set 1-2 is enough to just bounce them the rest of the way, you know? You kind of keep hitting them forward, and you stay right with them, and you both get there at the same time. Set 1-2 is pretty good for that. Next after that is set 4-3. These double kicks have really nice wall carry, and get you an extra amount of distance with enough recovery for you to get there in time. Hits them pretty far away, but you have enough recovery. You can run up, should be able to land. You might not get the full wall combo, but this works from pretty good distances away. Not to mention, this is your go-to ender if you don't want to switch sides. So it also happens to be your best wall carry and your second best damage option together. Some other points worth noticing would just be run up and down forward 1-3. If you have a medium number of hits, 5-6 hits in your combo, you could do this to get them to the wall. And the nice advantage is that puts them super high in the air. They're likely to hit high on the wall, which lets you get more damage at that point. The last thing worth mentioning, it's not a super good option, is up forward. God damn it. The last thing worth mentioning that's not a super good option is up forward 3+4. That can do the same thing, kick into the wall the last little bit, but you don't get as good a float. You might see that just as for something that comes to mind real quick, but for the most part, down forward 1-3 does that job a little bit better. So we've looked at all the different ways you can get combos in your opponent and how you can use those combos to get them to the wall. Let's next take a look at when you're already at the wall, the moves you can use to stick them back to it. for when you end a combo there and you have the advantage on wake up, you want to splat into that wall again as best you can. So let's go over some of those moves real quick. There's the huge list of every move that I found that does cause a wall splat, and I'm not going to go over all 27 of them here. Just let it be known you have several choices, and the mix-up that you're going for basically is mid versus low at any time. She doesn't have anything low you're going to hit him with at wall splats. Just hit them low to keep them honest. What you really want to get is to stick them back to the wall, and she has a couple of good mids that are safe for doing so. You have several moves overall, like forward 2-3. That's a 12-frame punish that'll stick to the wall. That's great. But since it's high, if you use that for wall pressure and they happen to guess low, they would duck that cleanly. So you have to be careful about moves that are high, but several of them work. Back turn 4 is an option, because if they try to sidewalk out of there, it's homing, and that'll hit them too. So those are kind of cool, worth considering. But the mids that splat are what you really want to go for. And she can get you by the third hit of strings, like that. But that's not a natural combo, and you're not going to hit them with that necessarily. If you happen to get an opponent that's really freaked out and presses a button at the wrong time, and challenge that and they get hit, yeah, that'll wall splat. But what you want to look at are safe mids. Mids in general, and ones that are safe on block, are really worth it. So the two most noteworthy ones are set 2. You don't have to be far away to do this. You can be waking up and just set 2 very quickly. That's a safe mid that re-wall splats. So that's the biggest threat you have, right? Is sticking them back to the wall without consequences, and all you need are just lows to keep them honest. You know, they get tired of you waking up with a low, one set 2, and then boom. Next up on that list is quarter circle 1+2. This move is very underrated. Doesn't seem like it had a real good purpose in mind. They just made it a really good move overall. It has huge range, airborne, safe mid on block, quarter circle 1+2 to 27 damage, and back into that wall splat. The other string worth considering while standing 2-4 is pretty good here, because if you happen to crouch in front of them, they're immediately thinking full crouch sweep, right? And you do that to them a couple times, they're going to get wise to it, and you have while standing 2-4, which is a mid-natural combo that wall splats. The string itself is mid-high, so if they didn't bite on that, they can duck, so be aware of that. The full list is in the doc, like I said. You can go and learn them all, but those are the ones you really want to focus on. Set 2 is the biggest, most important thing, and the lows to keep them honest. If they try to get up with a kick instead, something like that is -12, that's a good option to do it too. So remember that one. A 12-frame punish works well, as does your forward 4 too. If you can punish with that thing, really good. You hit him to the wall and you backdash to bait it and then tag him, that's good. So punishment, stick to the wall, mid, that's safe, the wall splats, and then the lows that complement that whole situation are what you want to focus on. When you're not necessarily at the wall but close to it, you have a wall bounce and down back 1+2. This move, like any other, has the same kind of property. It depends on how close you are to the wall. If you happen to be pretty far away, you can do that. Your crouch dash 2 input. This works best from the longest, most far away distance, because the recovery is going to kind of put you right at them. Like that. I didn't have barely enough time to follow up there. This works when you're just the tip. It's mostly your style point option. Try it one more time. There's one. Oh, see, that missed. That's interesting. It's so fast it does it. Needless to say, that's a sweet spot. You really need to be in just the right position for that to work, but if you know you have that position, that's a really cool option to use in my book. There's one. There's one that's just right. Crouch dash 2 is a great option for doing this. Outside of that, if you're not quite at max distance, you could just use forward 3-4. That works really well. It's a nice high stick to the wall splat so you can squeeze in the extra hits. And any other in-between distance, forward 2-3 is pretty go-to. Because it'll cover the ground, and it's got really good recovery for you, you should have plenty of time to hit them afterward. And finally, that brings us to your wall combos. The whole thing has been leading us here. Launch your opponent in the air, combo them as much as you can, carry them to the wall, resplat them to the wall, whatever it is. Once they're at the wall, this is where you do some serious damage. So a couple of combos worth looking at here. I'm going to use forward 2-3 as the splat, just out of convenience every time. So the biggest combo you get is this. 1, down forward 1, down 2-1-2 both. Let me show you that move in the move list, just so we're clear about exactly which string it is we're doing. And if you played Tekken Tag 2 at all, you already know this one. That's the string right there. Down 2-1-2, and then both pushes. To make this easier, all you have to do is just press down 2-1-2, and you hold in that 2, and just press 1. That button buffering technique really comes in handy. It keeps you from having to mash it. Just do 2, 1, 2 and hold it, and then press another one. So a jab, a down forward one, and then that whole string is possible. That works on small characters, as you can see, pretty reliable. The only real drawback is your recovery is a little slow, so you don't have a ton of frame advantage over them when they get up, but it's enough for you to be able to backdash and bait an attack or something like that. But that's your max damage overall, is that string. So the next closest option you have is a jab into down forward 3+4. This works pretty well too. I like this one mainly because you can hold back during the string and end up back turned after the damage. Does not change your Oki situation, your recovery is exactly the same. When you hit them with this, they stand up normally and you're already back turned, ready to catch them with whatever it might be. So I like this one a lot. This also will break floors on a floor breakable stage. You do not get your back turned from there. Another one worth noting is down back 2-4-2. Nice amount of damage. You're not really sacrificing a lot of damage, but this one they can't tech roll when they hit the ground. This is a hard knockdown. They can't tech immediately. They can roll to the side afterward, but they can't tech quickly. So you can kind of use that to your advantage, knowing they have to stand up or roll to the side and get ready for your next low attack before they're ready to go. If they're mashing a button trying to tech roll out of there as fast as they can, this won't work. You're going to catch them napping for a second, and you'll be ready to land right on top of them. So that's worth noting because it is a spike knockdown. Also one that would break the floor. And the last thing worth noting, does not work on small characters. I'm not going to change it just to show you, but it does exist. And that is 2-2-2-2-2-2-2-2, and you cancel the 5th hit. On normal sized characters, all 4 of the 2 strikes will connect, and the 5th one, you cancel it in the back turn, you'll be right on top of them. So the goal there is you just hit them with 4 strikes in the back turn. But if you want to get fancy with it, 2-2-2-2-2-2, and cancel that last hit. That can work on full-size characters. Quick little side note, if you are off axis, down back 2-4 is a pretty go-to way to kind of pick them up again. It doesn't have a full resplat that's reliable that I've seen, but that one works just to get a little bit of extra out of it and stick them to the wall proper. So the last topic to cover then is wall combos that will break the wall / balcony or the floor. And there's a ton of these. Once again, list is in the description and in the Google Doc. I'm not going to cover all of them, just ones that are worth noting. When it comes to breaking the wall or balcony, pretty much anything that does the wall splat will do the trick. And the ones you're going to see most often, so the first one of those you're going to see is back turned 1-2-2. That 3rd hit connects fast enough, that'll break the wall on the balcony it's under it. The same thing with set 1-2-2. If you happen to be mid-combo and on your way there, you could do that as well. You can do, if you happen to do the while standing 2-4 that we talked about as your wall splat, set 1-2-2 is right there ready for you. Breaks the balcony. And the other one is set 4-3. That one works in pretty much any wall splat situation. Cool looking kick, nice damage. Outside of that, all your other wall splats are pretty reliable. 1-2-4 is one that we don't talk about a lot. They all work. Simple one hits like that. The choice is yours when it comes to breaking the wall. And if you've already used your screw attack, you still have it on the other side. Just make sure you didn't use a screw attack and not remember it. Breaking the floor is pretty much as straightforward. We talked about 2 already, which is the jab into down forward 3-4. That'll break the floor without you going back turned, as will the down back 2-4-2. There's a couple other cool ones that I like. Down forward 1-2-2 is just a string that I find cool. This is the one where she does the head first flip. It's worth noting that too in the regular wall combo section. I forgot. Down forward 1-2-2 does the head over flip that you have to tech roll back. That'll break the floor here. And I think this is a cool string. It feels like that really hurts. I like that attack a lot in general. And the last one worth mentioning is a pair of back ones. Pair of back ones into that hatchet chop. Can be a little tricky to time. Can't mash out the one. You don't want the 3rd one there. The back 1-1. Hatchet chop. That breaks floors too. So you got a couple of different fancy ways to do it. Set 1-2-3 from mid combo does it. Lots of things like that. But those are the ones that are worth noting. And the rest of them are in the description and that doc. So I highly recommend, once you've gotten used to what we're talking about here, go check out that doc and see what the other options are. And just kind of get used to them, right? Like, oh, I didn't know blah, blah, blah would do that. Little by little, you'll absorb the information. And once you get comfortable with the basics, you'll get the extra little fringe data little by little absorbed into your mind. So it takes experience, it takes practice to get used to all of these things, and you're never going to remember every move all the time. But But the more you get used to it, I think the more natural it becomes, and you don't have to waste energy thinking about it. It just happens. So that's it for the combo explanation. I hope this hour was informative in teaching you how combos work. That's always been the goal, is understanding the nature and what you can do with them and how to get the most out of it without having to panic and without being caught off guard by different situations that might arise. You always have to know these things ahead of time. Whenever you go for X launcher, you got to realize, oh, if this hits, I have to do a certain combo in those situations. And that comes with familiarity, like I said. Every time you're going to go for, forward 2. And when you get that counter hit, you better have up forward 3-4 locked and loaded, because that's the easy one, for example. So that stuff will come with time. Hopefully this is enough of a basis for you to understand it better, rather than just memorizing a boring list that you'll forget anyway. So hopefully this helped. Click the subscribe button down below for more interesting content of all the other characters and everything else that's happening in Season 4. I got a couple more guides coming up, as well as redoing some old ones from Season 1 that I think are worth a complete do-over. So stay tuned for all of those. I appreciate you checking this out, and hopefully I will see you in one of those future videos. Later.